about Flutter, very basics of Flutter, but I wanted to mention here about Flutter Web, so that's why I'm doing this. And then we'll build and deploy in Firebase. I will show you show the demo at the end of this session, though. We talked about progressive web app. Now we'll move on to Flutter. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you know the architecture, but we'll see how it is different for web, and we'll see how we can build, and I'll show you the demo in a moment. So Flutter, as you all know, is a UI toolkit that allows you to build beautiful applications on iOS, Android, web. Now it's also for other like Mac OS, Linux, etc. So you build these applications using a language called Dart, and it supports, like I said, it supports all these things: mobile, web, desktop, and embedded too. So before I could start off, I just want you to understand, whenever we create web application, we can create it in two ways. We can paint pixels on the web page in two ways. The traditional one is the one that we always did, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? And it's all element-based, and it's still the most prevalent one. But there's also something called as Canva Kit, which is nothing but Canvas and WebGL. I'm not going to be talking too much into it. Very high level. These are 2D pixel APIs where web developers can use to build amazing websites, which can be flexible, portable, and also performant too. Imagine if you want to create an application like Google Earth or Photoshop, right? You want the rich UI on the web, right? If you want to create that, you could use Canva. A lot of people are using Canva Kit now, but still HTML, CSS still provides. So these are the ways that you can do. Why am I talking about this, right? So traditionally, you have a user interface, you have the browser engine, and you have a rendering engine. This is where it comes into play. You have inside your browser, you can have this code as a HTML, CSS, or as a Canva Kit. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because in Flutter, you have the browser, and then you have at the top, you have your application, and then Flutter Framework, which is an engine called Skia, right? Skia, in a very high level, it can convert all your native code, like your iOS and Android. It can convert it and make sure that they are compatible with those platforms. And for browser, Skia also supports these two ways of painting the pixels on the screen. Why am I saying this? It's because when you create a Flutter web app, Skia looks for it. Okay, this person is using on a mobile device, then it will render it in HTML. Because why? The downloadable size is smaller. But however, if you want a rich UI experience on a larger device, like a desktop or on a laptop browser, then it'll convert it as Canva Kit. So understand that it does it automatically, but you can also change these settings. This is something that I wanted to at a very high level wanted to touch base on this. So you have, again, Flutter, you have the Flutter SDK with all the widgets and packages, etc. You use Dart language, and then the engine that I was talking about compiles the native SDK. So on a super high level, and why use Flutter, right? If Flutter Web, especially, it's portable, it's beautiful, and because it can automatically switch devices for user experience. It's also fast, it is productive, and it's also open source, right? So what do you start with? I'm pretty sure that most of you here who are here, you would know how to install a Flutter SDK. Once you do that, you set the path. And when you run Flutter Doctor, I had everything on my device, but then you have to choose Chrome, which you can use it to build. Okay. So you create a Flutter application using Flutter create and the app name. And then when you want to run, you run Flutter run, and it'll ask you which device. If you add the flag -d Chrome, I think it'll pick up Chrome or whatever device you want it to run with. So when you do that, by default, you get this incremental application. So the project folder looks like you have the Android, you have iOS, and inside the lib main.dart as your entry point. And then you have this web folder, right? So note that we have a web folder, we have an index.html and a manifest, but we do not have a service worker, right? So we are going to make this to a progressive web app in a moment. How do we do that? We'll see. Then you have the dependencies where you add dependencies file, pubspec.yaml file, where you can add dependencies. Like if you are trying to do social icons, I was trying to build something with social icons. I had to add it under here. So that's something that you would do. And when you do that, this is your main.dart. We will see the Dart path in a moment. And in Flutter, everything is a widget. You can create stateless widget and stateful widget. Stateless is something that the user does not interact. It's not dynamic, but stateful is dynamic and it changes. We'll be seeing a sign up form demo in a moment. There are common widgets, scaffold, which is a basic structure of a typical material design application. You will have container, everything is a widget, text, card, list view, column. We'll be seeing all those red ones that I've pointed out. We'll see it in the code in a moment. So okay, we have talked a lot about this. So web apps in Flutter, how are they? They are they're responsive in design, and then they render. Like I said, it chooses HTML or CanvasKit, and then there's a lot of plugin supports. And specifically for desktop or for your web application, you can also add keyboard interaction and mouse scroll, etc. So this way, it can also be accessible. So let's finally build it, right? How do we build it? Once you have a Flutter application and you say Flutter build web, it creates a web folder inside. And if you see inside this, there is earlier we did not have a service worker. Here we do have a service worker and we do have a manifest, right? Flutter converts this, it also adds these files. And if you go inside one of the files, it will show the script that inside the HTML where it registers for the service worker. So now Firebase Console, you create a project. Once you create a project, you would go on the left-hand side, you would use hosting because we're just going to host this application that we have created and run an audit on this page and see whether it's progressive web app compliant, right? So how do you do this? Once you log in, you install Firebase tools. Then inside your project folder, you go log in with Firebase and then you initialize. And make sure that when you do this, you have to it'll ask you for which folder. By default, it'll choose public, but we want that build web folder because all our manifest, HTML, and then service workers, everything is inside our build/web folder. So we want Firebase to pick that. And also it'll ask you, hey, do you want to configure it as a single page HTML? Because this is just a single page, you're just going to say yes. And make sure that you say no to other options that was given to you because it'll overwrite and you will not be able to host your application. So that way, once it does not overwrite, it skips it. And once you're done, it's initialized for you. Once you do that, you say Firebase deploy, and your app is, ta-da, voila, your app is there. So, okay, I forgot the animations here. This is the application that we will be showing. First one is on the left, you have a sign up page where we'll be building it. And then we'll make sure that inside the web folder, all these things are there. And then we'll have Firebase, and then your application will have an install icon. And this is the demo that I'm going to be showing. So we have the widget tree is like this. Your application, you have a sign up page, you have a welcome page. And then inside the sign up, there is a sign up form, which is a stateful widget, and which has text fields and button. And the welcome page is, again, a stateless widget. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to stop sharing and then share another screen here. Just give me a moment. Your window. Let's check this guy. Okay. Cool. Can you guys see my screen now? Can you guys see my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up? Cool. Yes, cool. Here is the application that I deployed. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's start off with the code, right? So this is the application where, if you can see, it create, all you have to do is you have to type in a name. I'm going to say Deepa, and then I'm going to say women in Firebase, right? So note that when I do that, it's very faded, but then you can check it out. I'm going to send all these information to you. So the progress bar changes colors. So if I do this, and also the sign up button will also change color here. So I do something like this. So it just says the sign up button also changed. And then once I do this, it's going to animate, and then it's going to go to the welcome page, right? So here is the code for that. We have first we are creating the app. Then we have two stateless widget. One is the sign up screen, which was the earlier page, the blue color page, right? And it has a scaffold. If this thing runs, just give it a minute. It creates a scaffold, and when you basically create the structure of it, and it says that come on, run. Okay, it has a blue color background, and there's a box inside that, and inside the card widget, you're creating a sign up form. So this is the only part that is a stateful widget. The rest of them are all stateless. The welcome screen is, again, a stateless widget, which we are defining it inside this class. And then we are creating, for this part, for sign up form, we are creating a stateful widget. And note that whenever you're creating stateful widget, you have to also make sure that you're overriding the state by using create state. So we are using create state here. So you are overriding. And also make sure that when we do this, it also we have to also set the state, right? So we have to let Flutter know that, hey, something changed. So make sure you look for those changes and then set it. So it's like if you have used other libraries like React, how does the virtual ROM automatically changes? Like it's something similar to it. So it just looks for those changes and changes it. So also we did have some animations at the bottom. Hang on. We build the context for this whole page. We have the field, first names, last name, and the username. And then somewhere around the lanes, I did have an animated progress indicator, which was at the top. So inside this, I have said, okay, for every field, make sure that it also has a function up there. It is looking for those, inside this for loop, it says that, hey, take up the value, and as long as, and make sure that the progress is updated with the controller's length, right? So you have this, and at the end, based on this, you would have the animations. The color changes. See, for example, it is tinted red right now. If I say Deepa, it changes to orange. And then if I go here, as it becomes yellow. And then if I say, okay, then it becomes green. So this is the animation that is here. And once you finally have it, you build a context for this. And when you click on sign up, it changes and moves to a different route, which we defined it at the top of the application here. So this is a very quick demo. The same thing, what I did was build it as a web application, and I have created a project here. Hopefully this thing works. I just did host it last night. Hopefully it works. So I have this application. I hosted it by running those commands, and here it is. Oh, come on. Show up. Let's do this. Okay, thank God. So we have this, and note that here I can install this, right? And also, if we go and look into the application, it should have a service worker, right? I generated those things, and it says that flutter.fire service worker, and I'm not sure if I can. Let me show you the code in VS Code too. So you have the service worker, you have the cache here. It says, oh yeah, pick up everything from. It does from index.html, get it from the manifest, all those icons. If you go see in the manifest, you have all these icons that we had it inside the manifest too. And this will also have it as a favicon at the top as well. So let's go ahead and run this application and see whether this is compatible, right? And it should also, when we analyze this page, it should go through the audit here, and let's see if it's compatible. I did build this earlier, the same thing with, and then I hosted it in other, okay, it says that it's still doing it, and cool, let's see. Okay, this one happens. You have to clear the cache and then reload it for this to be working. But then it does say on the right here that, hey, it did check for Lighthouse, did check for all these audit. It did check whether it's installable, whether it can register, and it has manifest, etc. And I also have a code lab for this whole thing where I explain every single step of this. But then the last step is not hosting in Firebase, but it's in some other hosting services. So if you want to take a look at it, you just want the code, but you want to host it later in Firebase, you can do that as well. I am going to swap here and go to my slides real quick. Not the enter window. Okay, cool. This one. So we saw the demo, and we talked a lot about service workers, app manifest, and we talked about Flutter web architecture. Finally, we built and Firebase and hosted in Firebase, right? We built the app in Flutter, but we hosted it in Firebase. So we saw the demo. And if you are somebody who is new to Progressive Web App, I have a basic YouTube video for how you get started with the Progressive Web App. And I have a bunch of PWA APIs, Progressive Web App APIs that are supported. I have some articles about it. You can learn through that as well. And where can you take your next steps to, right? You can start working with server-side rendering, real-time data. You can make use of Firebase's database services too. And like Renuka said, you can use plugins, and you can try to use authentication, and also learn about service work, advanced caching methodologies in service workers, and how do you automate service worker using Workbox. And you can also use those advanced APIs that I was talking about. There is a lot of support available for Chrome, but again, there are some hiccups with iOS and Mac OS for sure. So I have code labs here for both Flutter and Progressive Web App. The main thing here is to build it as a, I forgot to show that VS Code, which I'll show it in a minute. So we have a Flutter forward extended event coming up in GDG San Jose. We'll be doing a workshop on how to build your own Linktree clone. And it's a hybrid event. Please do join us if you can. And once again, my name is Deepa. I'm going to leave this slide open. And thank you so much for your time.